Hey David, you ready to start filming?
Yeah, in just a minute. I gotta finish some worship here, alright? Hey guys, welcome back to Craze and Fusion. Today we are wrapping up our teaching series called Asking for a Friend. And in this series, we have a friend that's been asking a lot of questions. And they're really some great questions that all of us wrestle with at some point in our lives. And today our question is this: should I watch this? This is a really important question for us to be asking. And before I tell you why, I want to tell you a story about a time where I didn't ask this question and really wish that I had. I'm sure nothing like this has ever happened to you, but one time when Joanna and I were dating, we were at her parents' house and we were kind of, scrolling through Netflix looking for a movie to watch. It was Joanna and I and her parents. And a movie popped up with Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson that I'd seen maybe half an hour of at someone else's house. And what I remembered of that half an hour, it was really funny. And so I recommended that we watch that movie. Well, what I didn't know at the time was that the little bit of that movie that I had seen was apparently some of the cleanest parts of the entire movie. I can't remember how long we were into the movie before I started to just feel really uncomfortable as the one who recommended it. And to make matters worse, again, I was their daughter's boyfriend, and so there's already kind of a level of inspection, interrogation going on there. But on top of that, I was studying to be a pastor at the time, and Joanna's dad is a pastor, and so as we were watching this movie that was kind of inappropriate to say I felt uncomfortable, man, that would be an understatement. All of a sudden, I found myself wishing I had asked this question: should I watch this? And explored the movie a little bit more before I just hit play. But beyond just not embarrassing yourself in front of your future in-laws, this question is really important for all of us, because there's a lot of stuff out there that you can watch that isn't necessarily helpful. I don't need to tell you that our world is just obsessed with entertainment and with distraction. The fact that you're watching this on a screen goes to show how much we use videos in our world today. And many of you carry around a device in your pocket that, as long as you have internet or data, gives you access to more content that you could ever consume in your entire lifetime. And while not all of that is bad, it doesn't take long on YouTube or Netflix or wherever you're watching to come across some stuff that you probably shouldn't be watching. There's a lot of stuff out there that can fill our minds and our lives with all kinds of stuff that in the long run isn't gonna help us, but actually could hurt us. And notice that the question isn't, can I watch this, but should I watch this? I mean, those are fundamentally different questions. It's not about, is it legal? It's not about, can I survive this? Can I get away with it? It's about whether or not this is something that I should be allowing into my life. Paul puts it this way in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. In other words, there are plenty of things that I have the right to do that could destroy my life. There are plenty of things that you are free to do legally, and maybe you can't even find a verse that specifically calls it a sin, but it's just not good for your soul. So what should we be watching as followers of Jesus? To answer that, we're going to be looking at Ephesians chapter 5. And while the Bible does not have a list of approved TV shows, it does give us direction on the types of things that we should actually be allowing into our lives. So when the Bible doesn't speak on a specific topic, what we have to do is we have to ask, are there any commands, any prohibitions, patterns, examples in Scripture that kind of give us guidance into that area? And as with every other area in life, God doesn't just leave us stranded or directionless. He actually gives us help and guidance. So let's start in Ephesians 5, verse 3. But among you, and he's speaking here to followers of Jesus, there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. Paul is saying there shouldn't even be a hint of sin in our lives because we are now followers of Jesus. If Jesus has changed my life, there should not even be a hint of sexual immorality. And the word that he uses there is kind of a drunk drawer for all kinds of sexual sin, and those should not be in my life. There shouldn't be impurity or greed or obscenity because they're just out of place for someone who is following Jesus. And notice that he doesn't say that we shouldn't take these sins to the extreme, but we shouldn't even allow a small amount, not even a hint, in our lives. And I think if we're honest, we would admit that it doesn't take long to find movies and videos on YouTube that are full of exactly what Paul is saying has no place in our lives. I know I'm often tempted to say that it's not that bad, or I'm not as bad as the person next to me, or I'm better than I used to be. But Paul is saying that that's the wrong standard to have. It's not about the person next to you. It's not about who you used to be. It's about walking in the freedom that Christ has purchased for you. So this leads us to our first question that we need to ask. What are my entertainment choices building into my life? What thoughts, habits, beliefs are the things that I'm watching building into my life? What desires and ideas are they causing me to have? Maybe another way to phrase it would be this: is what I'm watching helping or hurting me? Is it moving me toward Jesus, or is it moving me away from him? Are my entertainment choices helping me move toward sexual immorality, impurity, greed? Or are they helping me move toward Jesus? There's a lot of things to watch out there they're going to lead you toward what Paul is saying has no place in our lives. Our culture will tell you that entertainment is simply entertainment, but entertainment actually has the power to change how we think and how we act. You see, the reality is you become what you fill your mind with. If we fill it with suggestive material, coarse joking, raunchy movies, we shouldn't be surprised if we become someone who has trouble with our thought life, trouble with keeping our speech appropriate, someone who struggles with temptation a lot. We shouldn't be surprised if that's what we're filling our mind with. And this can be a really subtle battle. We don't think it's affecting us, but before we know it, we can find ourselves in sinful patterns of thinking and behavior simply because we are allowing our entertainment choices to build things into our life that just don't belong there if we are followers of Jesus. And so that leads us to a follow-up question. Am I growing numb to things I should be very sensitive to? Have I become desensitized to things that really should bother me? Have I just become okay with things that ought to disturb my soul? Maybe another way to ask it would be this: what am I tolerating in my life that I shouldn't be? Are there things in my life that I'm allowing that just don't belong there as a follower of Jesus? Am I growing tolerant of a hint of sin in my life? Paul is saying that we need to remove all sin, not even allow a hint of it. And so we must not tolerate things that are going to lead us toward sin. Maybe as we talk about not having a hint of sin in our lives, you think to yourself, man, that's impossible. Like David, am I supposed to be perfect? Well, this is where we need to understand the difference between struggling with sin and surrendering to sin. All of us are going to struggle with sin, but struggling means we are actually fighting to remove it. We're doing something about it. Surrendering means we're just okay with it being there and we've stopped fighting. Maybe we feel bad about it, maybe we don't like it, but we're not actually taking any steps to remove it from our lives. Sometimes we'll say that we're struggling with our anger or with our thought life or whatever it is, but really we're just surrendering because we haven't done anything to fight that sin in our lives. Sometimes in our fight with sin, we actually need to take some drastic measures to remove it from our lives. Look at how Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 28. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Man, that can seem like some extreme statements. Jesus is exaggerating to make a point here, and what he's trying to say is this: it's better to painfully cut things out of your life now than to deal with the consequences of it later. You might lose your arm, but you keep your life. See, here's what you need to understand. You can live without it, but you might not live with it. You can live without that TV show, without that app on your phone, without following that person on social media, but if you keep it, it just might wreck your life. It sounds extreme because it is. Sin is that serious, and it will destroy your life. So why risk it? Why tolerate any of it in our lives? For some of you, this might mean that you need to delete an app. You need to stop watching a show. You need to unfollow some people on social media. Maybe you need to get some restrictions on your phone. For others of you, you might need to get radical with removing sin from your life. Maybe you need to get rid of your smartphone. Get a dumb phone for a while. Maybe you need to remove the TV from your room. Maybe you need to totally get rid of social media. Believe it or not, you can live without it. I don't know what it is for you, but for some of you, you need to take some major steps if you're going to honestly be able to say that you're struggling with sin instead of just surrendering to it. And lastly, there are probably some of you here who are looking at stuff online that has the potential to really hurt you in life. Maybe you are engaging with inappropriate images or videos online. Maybe you're engaging with pornography. And maybe you think it's not that big of a deal. You think, you know what, it's not really hurting anyone, and a lot of people around me are doing it, so what's the big deal? Well, not only does Scripture teach us that it is sin and that it will ultimately lead to death, but science actually is increasingly showing us that pornography does not lead to the satisfaction that it promises you. There's a book called Your Brain on Porn that lays out some of the negative effects of pornography on your life, and I want to share just one of those with you. You see, pornography leads to your brain fatiguing and releasing dopamine, and dopamine is that feel-good chemical, and so what that means is that every pleasure in your life is now dulled. It's now less fun. Your ability to enjoy food, laughter, relationships, your favorite game, whatever it is in life, it actually goes down with continued exposure to porn. Basically, pornography dulls your ability to even enjoy life. And I don't know about you, but I want to be able to enjoy my life. And so if that's you today, my encouragement to you is to get some help. This is not a battle that you should be fighting on your own. And your leaders are here to help you. I don't know if you realize this, but they actually have a bunch of other things they could be doing on a Sunday afternoon, but they decided to instead be here because they want to make a difference in your life. Maybe you're afraid that if you shared that you struggle with something like that, you'd feel judged or you'd feel condemned. And I get that fear. I feel the same thing when I'm in sin. But at Bridgewater, we strive to be a place where it's okay to not be okay, and where we show the same grace to those who are struggling as Jesus showed us in our sin. Jesus calls us out of that sin and into freedom in life. And so if you need help, this is a great place to find it. And for all of us today, you become what you fill your mind with. So what are you filling yours with? What are your entertainment choices building into your life? Who are you becoming? Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.